All right, and good evening to everybody across the Sunshine State. Here, it's time for the Central Florida Blitz. I'm your wonderful, delightful host, Joshua Wilson here. Yes. It's hard to believe we are at week 6, which technically is the midway point of the 2024 season. And tomorrow we should get the official playoff rankings. I know you can go to maxpreps.com and look at some of the rankings now and kind of get an idea of where the teams are going to be, but we got to keep this in mind. I want to give you a heads up. Keep this in mind that any forfeits that have happened, that's going to fluctuate the rankings a little bit because the maxpreps rankings don't account for forfeits, and it's basically they're not retroactive. So the Florida High School Athletic Association wants to make sure that those forfeits are actually accounted for in the rankings, and that's why they're still going to put up separate rankings and for football, and they're doing this for all the team sports. So keep that in mind. We'll see that tomorrow, potentially 1 or 2 o'clock. I say this. I see this with. Hopefully, it's not necessarily saying the grain of salt, but I say this with delicacy that nothing with the pending storm changes that plan, of course, for the Florida High School Athletic Association tomorrow to drop the first playoff ranking. So we'll see what happens. But plan is right now, par for course. We're doing our shows tonight. We're doing our shows tomorrow. We're also launching the Drive the State show tomorrow as well to go over the playoff rankings, give you all the visual aspect of what these rankings look like, also to give you what it's going to look like in the rural classification. So we have that coming up. But first things first, we're going to get rolling here with the show. We're supposed to have Chris Hayes on from the Orlando Sentinel on tonight, but had canceled last second on emergency. Not enough time for me to find a new guest here for the night. So we're just going to kind of roll along, talk some updates, get you questions, hit a comment. If you got a comment, if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or on X/Twitter, you can post a comment and we'll share those comments. We'll bring up your questions. So just give me a question, comment. We'll do that during what would have been the interview spot coming up here around 7:45. But with that said, also hit the QR code, scan, and download the FloridaHSFootball.com app on your phone. Also, follow us on social media. If you're not already doing that, that's at Florida HS Football. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We're getting closer and closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. So, hey, all the support. Share this with your fans. Share this with, it's not fans. We'll actually share it with you. If you're a team watch, share it with your fans out there. If you're a coach, share it with your family. Share it with your friends. Share it with your next door neighbor. Hey, we appreciate all the love and everything that we got here on our shows here across the Central Florida Blitz and all the other Blitz shows that we have here. So, yes, indeed. And good evening to you, Nully. And hey, I'm glad to see you as well. The season is flying indeed. And we'll definitely talk about what's going on the Lakeland side of things on the Gulf Coast Blitz coming up here at 8:30. So that's where we're going to stand at. But glad you're watching. Glad you're on here this week. And we're going to get rolling here in a moment here. And with that said, it's time for the Blitz lines here. All right. As we roll along here, how about this? Lake Mary upset on the road by Dr. Phillips. And yes, I mean, according to the Orlando Sentinel, this is what head coach Rodney Wills of Dr. Phillips said. Yeah, DP is back, baby. I mean, honestly, that's pretty good right there. I mean, and you know, the chance of all DP, if y'all remember that or know that, I've heard that over the course of time, it is all DP right there. And how about this? Stanley Anderson Lofton, 16 of 21 passes for 232 yards and a touchdown, and added 60 more yards on as DP put up 133 yards rushing on the ground. That's according to the Orlando Sentinel. And what makes this win big for Dr. Phillips here in this 26-21 victory? They're 4-0, and you got to think about this. They were 4-6 2 years ago in 2022, 7-4 last year. I mean, the wins here for Dr. Phillips is stacking up here. And honestly, those two interceptions they got on Noah Groves there in the final 2 drives there of the game huge for Dr. Phillips. And now here's the other side. Lake Mary, ranked number 13 in the Florida top 25 last week, most likely could either be in the bottom of that ranking or totally out yet. I'm still kind of processing all this information from this week across the state. I mean, looking at my sheets here, I mean, it's a potential. I mean, considering that we had multiple top 25 teams lose, but remember, some top 25 teams here, they were playing other top 25 teams. So, somebody has to lose. It was going to be expected to happen, but I expect Lake Mary potentially to slide out of the top 25 potentially. But again, it's a matter of who could come into the top 25 that's top 25 worthy. Let's keep it. I'll be working on that. That'll be coming out here later this week. But with that said, we're rolling on here as Edgewater smashes Apopka at home 35-0. I had a fear that this could potentially happen. I didn't want to kind of go into that last week, but I had this fear that the way Apopka has been playing and how Apopka has come out of the gate. Okay, I get it. You look at the number of points. Okay, yeah, they're winning games here. Okay, 10-0 week 1, 6-0 the next week. They lose to Dr. Phillips 6-3, which, we look at that. And I'm like, okay, you score 49 points against Westport. I'm like, oh, okay, well, Apopka's finally gotten some things figured out. But the thing is, you can score 49 points on the weakest competition and make it look really pretty. Like, it could look really good. I mean, for Apopka, that's what they did in week 5. It'll be week 4. This past week, playing against Edgewater, who was coming off of a loss. I mean, here it's just really hard. I mean, 35-0. This is where I'm just struggling. Like, it's not so much that Apopka lost; it's by how much Apopka lost, and then Apopka got goose egged. That's where I'm struggling with this because honestly, they just turned them out of College Park and told Apopka to go back home. And I mean, Carter Emanuel, 3 rushing touchdowns and threw for 193 yards and a touchdown for Edgewater. I mean, that, right there. I mean, we get it. Apopka was just only yielding 3 points a game before the week 5 loss. And honestly, now here you are. Edgewater is 3-2. Apopka's 3-2. But at the end of the day, Apopka's offense, or of lack of offense, I should say, has finally caught up with them here in this particular game, and getting shut out on the road at Edgewater, a place that you can score points at. I mean, you can go up against that, Edgewater and play a good game. Apopka, I mean, honestly, I'm looking at this one. Here's the thing: Apopka's got West Orange this week. I expect Apopka to lose that game. I considered putting it on the pick 6 this week, but honestly, I got feeling that Apopka is going to lose that one to West Orange. West Orange, who's undefeated, by the way. All right, rolling along here, we got Jones needing to escape Osceola, 34-28 in overtime. I mean, come on, that had a heck of a game there, and on the max prep, on the box score on the max preps from Jones, Darian Coleman, 488 yards and 4 touchdowns, passing went 23 of 35 passing. That is pretty doggone good. I can tell you that right there. And Florida Gator commit Vernell Brown had 12 catches for 195 yards, while Larry Miles had 144 yards receiving on 4 receptions and a touchdown. And but for Osceola, Tavian Swint, UCF commit, 112 yards rushing on 17 carries and 2 touchdowns for the Cowboys. And now here's the thing: Osceola, according to their box score, did record 8 sacks on defense, and Joshua Alamo, 3 sacks out of those 8 right there for the Osceola Cowboys. And but now Jones is 4-0. Well, Osceola is now 3-2. So this is really. I mean, I'm sitting there when I saw this, when I was following the game, I'm just like, wow, this is a tight one. I thought Osceola was going to get away with a big, huge victory here, and but Jones, hey, overtime does it, keeps them undefeated on the season. And Mark Cannon, good evening to you. And I mean, he comments, "Hi, Josh. How difficult it must have been for Kissimmee Osceola students to go to school Friday morning after that Jones lost the night before." I get it, especially if you play a Thursday night game. I get that. Going to school the next morning, especially after a game like that, those are games that us football fans, us football media gurus, we live for. We live for those kind of games. And but for the students on the other side, I can understand how that feels. It can feel pretty depressing in a way, having to walk into school the next morning knowing that your team was that close. And I mean that close, considering that it looked like there were some issues right where his clock was expiring, and it looked like potentially that Osceola may have spiked the ball, not realizing it was fourth down, giving Jones the ball back. And well, there's all that right there. So needless to say, we're going to roll along here and talk about this goodie of a game. Seminole 41, Lake Wales 38. I mean, talk about a game. I mean, game of the ages right there. Another tightly contested ball game there along the I-4 corridor. And, well, for that, Sanford Seminole did break Lake Wales' 28-game regular season win streak. And how about this? The Fighting Seminoles stay undefeated on the season. And quarterback Michael Clayton had a solid game, 14-22 for 213 yards and 3 touchdowns. Xavier Tucker hauled in 5 catches for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. So got to give it up for the Fighting Seminoles. They're doing really well. And Rasheed Turner, 10 tackles, a sack, and a fumble recovery. But I'll say this. I will say Juan Burchell might have done the most damage. I mean, looking at his stat line, how about this for a stat line? 9 tackles, an interception, the deflecting a pass, forcing a fumble, recovering a fumble, and blocking a kick. I mean, can't get any better than that when you sit there and you stack it up right there in the statistical categories on defense. And honestly, Sanford Seminole does it. I mean, 41-38. Lake Wales falls to 4-1 in the season. Seminole moves to 4-0. And I mean, this next one, I definitely know I got wrong on the picks here on this particular topic. And that is First Academy running over Delray Beach Atlantic. And I took Delray Beach Atlantic thinking, looking at things here that I thought that, Atlantic, after the way they took care of Blanche Ely in the previous week in week 4, that's yeah, that was a womp on my part. How about this? First Academy 41 of Delray Beach Atlantic 28. Solomon George's 190 yards on 12 of 21 passing completions and added 106 yards rushing on 9 carries and 2 touchdowns. Now, by the way, all the touchdowns that were on offense were rushing touchdowns. 6 rushing touchdowns for the Royals, and that win moves them to 5-0 on the season. And that puts Delray Beach Atlantic down to 4-1 on the year. So, again, some changes that are going to happen here in the Florida top 25 here. And yeah, Nully coming in hot with the comments tonight, and I love it. A lot of people got catfished by Atlantic. Well, I don't know. I mean, Nully, I don't know. Catfished. Man. I don't know if it was catfish or it's just that First Academy is really, really, really that good, and I am going to go lean on they're really that good, considering 30 transfers will do that for you. I mean, that's what it is right there. I mean, I know they got an investigation going on. The FHA's investigating. I get it, but outside of that, let's look at it. 30 transfers. That's what it'll do to you for a program. And I honestly thought Atlantic was gonna be a tight ball game, but Atlantic would come away with it. And you got to think about it. Just a circle. It's like, okay, well, Chaminade Madonna loses to Blanche Ely. Blanche Ely, loses to Atlantic, and now her Atlantic loses to First Academy. I pose the question: Is First Academy better than Chaminade Madonna this year? I don't know. That's the case yet. I still got Chaminade Madonna above First Academy in my rankings, so that's where I'm going to stand with it for right now until something else happens to show me that maybe Chaminade Madonna is not the top team in my opinion, or potentially the top team in Class 1A. That's a battle between Chaminade Madonna and Clearwater Central Catholic. So, but I digress. And this one, well, yeah, this one I really, really took the wrong team on this one last week. Yeah, how about this? So Galley blasting Orange City University 40-7. And yeah, speaking of that, yes. Orange City University. Man, oh man, oh man. How about this? The Commodores sent the Titans back up I-95 for the first loss of the season, and sophomore quarterback for Galley, Joseph Allen, 165 yards, 12-19 on passing completions and 3 touchdowns, while Tay Welch rushed for 130 yards and a touchdown. So And looking at this, AJ Forehand led the way in tackles for the Commodores with 18, with 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and as 3 Commodore players racked up double-digit tackles. And Barrett Schultz was the only one that scored the touchdown for the Titans on Friday night. And with that said, I know it's kind of weird here looking at it. I was supposed to have Chris Hayes on again. Chris Hayes was supposed to come on tonight, and it's about that time where we would have the interview. But we're going to keep rolling along here with the headlines as we roll along. And Winter Park comes off of their first off the list of undefeated teams that falls to 2-1 of the season after suffering that loss on the road at Creekside. And looking at Flagler Palm Coast, they whipped up on Zephyr Hills Christian. And they're, it's interesting this week, hey, we got the 2 teams playing up against each other that beat Mainland already this season. Flagler Palm Coast and Orange City University, and that will be part of the Pick 6 coming up here in the next little bit here on the show. And going forward, speaking of Mainland here, how about this? 0-5. Hello. But they were closer to winning a game this week. I will tell you that. Closer to winning, only 10-7. They fell 10-7 at Coffee up in Georgia against former Madison County head coach Mike Coe, who has already got a state championship there at Coffee. And but maybe the Buccaneers' best game so far. But they got Matanzas this week to open up district play. We'll see what happens there. But I have a feeling that Mainland will be able to win that game. But again, anything happens. That's why they play the game on the field. That's why there's 48 minutes on the clock. And I am not a referee. So there you go. I'll give myself a round of applause for coming up with that real quick on the Johnny on the spot. So, all right, Merritt Island looking solid after overtime win at St. Cloud 26-23, 4-1 of the season. They do have a big game coming up this week from with Ed White at home, and that is going to also be part of the Pick 6 coming up here in a little bit. And then, of course, as I told you earlier, West Orange remains undefeated, and took down Lake Buena Vista 35-7, and they could keep winning. Like I said, they could keep the winning coming as they got a Popcot this week at home. So a Popcot in West Orange this week. Rolling along, how about first-year innovation? How about this? Head coach Leroy Kennard. Yes, the head coach Leroy Kennard, who was over at First Academy for many years. He's the head coach there at Innovation High School, the newest high school that opened up in Orange County this year. And the first-year Bulls are 3-2 on the year, and they picked up a 21-17 victory over Orlando University. So, hey, got to give the first-year program some props. Good job, Bulls. Good job. Yes, indeed. All right, Mount Dora Christian and the Masters Academy remain among SSA's undefeated teams, and MDCA edged out Oak Hall this past Friday night to move to 6-0 on the season. Masters Academy is 5-0. They're getting ready for a showdown against a Providence team that is surging from Jacksonville, and we'll have that game coming up as well on the Pick 6 here as well. But first and foremost, I need some water. I'm going to take a water break. Y'all go take a little bit of a water break. Come back here. We'll talk a little bit more. We'll talk about maybe how week 6 is going to go this week a little bit, but we're not going to try to go too heavy on it because we're going to keep calm as possible, think normal as possible here. But yes, we're going to take a quick break here, and I hit the wrong button. There we go. Hit the wrong button. I thought I had my button on the one for this show, and hit the one for the other show instead. But we're going to take a water break. We'll be right back right after this here in 2 minutes here on the Central Florida Blitz on FortHSFootball.com. All right, welcome back here to the Central Florida Blitz here on this Monday, September 23rd of 2024. And first and foremost, if you're not following us on social media, hit that social media button and follow us on the social media channels. That is Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube at Florida HS Football, and then also on X/Twitter. That's at FLA HS Football. Now, this would have been where the interview segment would have happened at with Chris Hayes again. We apologize that Chris Hayes had an emergency, and hopefully we'll be able to get him on next week for the show, but just didn't have enough time to find a new guest for tonight. But with that said, let's talk about what's kind of going on right now around the state here in terms of, okay, we know that we really don't know. It's week 6 is kind of I'm proceeding as it's going to go as normal, but we know that there's the other side of that, and that is that we know that potential tropical cyclone number 9, which is potential Hurricane Helen, sitting out there right now in the Caribbean. It's not really doing much right this second, but we know that the potential forecast over the next 48 hours does not look pretty for the Sunshine State, and especially for any interest along the Gulf Coast, is where it's Governor DeSantis has already declared a state of emergency for 41 of the 67 counties, and that includes every county that I-75 touches except Miami-Dade County. So if you kind of take that and look at that, the perspective of what we've got coming potentially for later this week, it's a pretty serious situation. But again, we're kind of just wait and see what's happening here. I think we're going to know more tomorrow, but again, we're just kind of going forward with everything like with week 6 is going to happen as normal. So I'm going to put the picks out there here in a few minutes here. We're going to start putting the picks out, but again, this is what we're just kind of rolling along here, kind of just going with the normal here. But there has been a few games that have already been changed here coming up this week, and a lot of them are actually, we'll talk a few of those in the Gulf Coast Blitz, but considering that most of the game changes are so far in that section with the Gulf Coast Blitz already. But you can go to FloridaHSFootball.com and you can actually click, we got a thing that says potential Hurricane Helen to threaten the week 6 football schedule. My last update was about a little over an hour ago, and you can take a look at that and you can see what we've got there, and the sheet. Yeah, we got a live sheet that we'll update as we find out what games are changing. We'll just add them on there. A lot of these, yes, it's week 6 is a district week. It's a big week for a lot of teams. So these games, a lot of the games you'll see here eventually will if they get postponed, they'll have to be rescheduled. They won't be flat out canceled again because these are district games that are going to count on towards the schedule here. So, and we'll see what happens there. But looking at it so far right now, again, just about 5 games so far. But again, I expect more tomorrow, seeing what the changes are going to be. If it's not definitely tomorrow in a lot of games, I think a lot of schools are going to try to wait out and see what things look like by Wednesday. If Wednesday is really, things start to look really hairy in terms of what's going to happen. We could see a lot of game cancellations, especially those from probably I'd say you're north of I-4, beyond the Panhandle, North Florida, definitely, likely a lot of games being moved around, postponements or game cancellations for this week. I would say that. Probably South Florida, probably Southwest Florida, maybe, potentially, hopefully, they'll be able to still play football. But right now, as it stands, we'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated on FloridaHSFootball.com, and we'll just kind of roll along from there here. So, but with that said, if you got any comments, hit the comment box. Or you got a question, if you anything, just hit that box, and we'll pop those questions or comments up. And hey, if you're watching, come on, we want some comments. I want some questions. I want to ask some questions. I want to answer some questions here. I want to talk to y'all. So hit that comment box and ask me something, or give me a comment. Give me some thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking, and we'll roll along from there and do from that. But looking at it, I'm trying to see. I'm going to hit I love it. I'm glad. Stephen Thatch chimes in. Don't really like the margin of victory as a component of rankings, like the seeing reserves get to play when the game is at hand and without affecting the rankings. Curious how much that factors in the rankings. Okay, so this is a good comment because I can give a little bit of insight from conversations I've had with people. My understanding, and again, Max Reps' ranking is proprietary. It's a copyrighted formula. It's protected. But from what I understand from people I have talked to, the margin of victory it's some kind of cap. I don't know if it's a cap officially with them. I don't know how they describe it because they're not going to tell us. But somewhere it's like a cap between 16 to 17 points from my understanding. Now, it could be wrong. It could be different. But if it's that, it's really running up the score is not necessarily going to help in that case for some teams. And it just depends. But we also got to remember this, that the margin of victory is one component. But remember, it goes infinity. It goes deeper. It goes way beyond just, your opponent, what your opponent's schedule and your opponent's schedule. It goes way deep, and it can circle back to your team 5 or 6 times over because of the commonalities between the opponents and who's played who along the way. So, but again, the margin of victory component, I will say this. I know some people don't like this, but actually the margin of victory component actually gives a little, I feel like for me, it gives a little bit more accuracy to who should really be seated where. When you don't have the margin of victory component, you end up with some wonky things that end up happening along the way. And we saw that a couple of years ago where South Walton ended up hosting Bowles in the 3rd round. And really, Bowles goes all the way out to South Walton and blows them out. So you kind of have to think about that for a moment. That I think that was when we were using the RPI. You take that, put the RPI on one side, but when people started looking at the Max Preps rankings, Bowles was rated higher than South Walton. They had been using those rankings then. Bowles would have been at home. Yeah, if Bowles would have been at home, and then South Walton would have been on the road. Nolly, this is good. I'm going to bring this comment up from Nolly here. The margin of victory is used. Running clocks need to go. And honestly, here's the thing. You can say that. I disagree with you on this one, Nolly. I disagree with you because running clocks are still important. Because as we have seen it, we've already had some 70-point games here already this season. And honestly, I'm sure for those teams that were on the other side of those 70-point games, especially when they were when it was high scoring versus low scoring on those 70-point games, I'm sure the team that was getting blown out was grateful that the running clock was there because they could get out of there. Now, if you were like a a Booker versus a Carrollwood Day or a Carrollwood Day in their situation when they were in a 70-point game, yeah, they were probably fine because it wasn't necessarily the running clock. But I'm hard pressed to say that I actually agree with this thought about running clocks need to go, because honestly, you really kind of actually need that, because when you're talking about already going into halftime and it's like 35-0, 42-0. I mean, the other team on the other side, what good is it going to do them at that point? The game's already out of hand. So I feel like the running clocks are there for a reason, and we should just leave that alone for right now, because it's actually, at the end of the day, it's going to prevent some teams from running up the score too much. I mean, especially if it's already done in the first half, the damage is already done. So let's keep the running clock there, in my opinion. So, all right. With that said, I'm going to take another water break here. Then we're going to. I love you, Nolly. I'm harsh. I know. I love it. I love it. But yes. But anyways, I'm going to take another water break here. And then we're going to come back and we're going to roll along into the pick six. And we're going to wrap this one up for this week, for week 6. And hopefully these games will get played. But we'll be right back after 2 minutes here on the Central Florida Blitz right here on FloridaHSFootball.com. Welcome back here to the Central Florida Blitz here on FloridaHSFootball.com. Josh Wilson right here, leading you the way to the Week 6 picks here in a moment here. Yes, the pick 6 here coming up here. But Mark Gannon, he said, dropped in a comment while we were on the break, and he said he attended the Eau Gallie University game, and before the game, he visited the Eau Gallie Art District, and the place has a groovy, hippie atmosphere. Ooh, I will take note of that, Mark. Thank you so much for that. And then I know the game didn't go probably the way you would like to see it, especially the fact that it was a hyped game. Everybody thought that was going to be a good game, and but to see Eau Gallie just run roughshod over University. Ooh, yeah, that really probably wasn't like what we want to see good ball games, and man. But anyways, good to know about the Eau Gallie Art District, and I'll keep that in mind. If I'm ever down in Melbourne, I will have to check that out. So definitely indeed for that. And, of course, we're getting time and getting ready here for, yes, it is that time of the show for the Pick 6 for this week. And got 6 games on the list. Hopefully all 6 get played. But we'll start off with the results from last week. And did I put it down? No, I forgot the changes. I actually went 3-3. I didn't went 5-1. I did not go 5-1. Somehow I don't know how I did, because I put it in the thing and I did not know why I did not change it. But this is correct, is that I am 25-10. That is correct. I did change that, and that is correct. But I was 3-3 last week, not 5-1. Yes. But with that said, yeah, I lost a couple of those games. For sure. All right, game number 1 is Providence, 4-0 at the Masters Academy, 5-0. And this is going to be interesting. This is going to be a quarterback matchup. And you got Mason Williams for Providence. You got Jackson Steacher for the Masters Academy. Both of them are really, they will sling it down the field. Williams is averaging 222.3 yards per passing per game, while Steacher is averaging 238.7. But here's my thing. This is what's going to give Providence the edge, I feel, is that they have racked up an average of 405 yards per game, and that's with Masters Academy only racking up nearly 250 yards per game. And both teams on the schedules, they're very comparable when you look at them. And honestly, it's a coin toss type game. But if there's an edge team I'm going to give here, and that is to Providence. And that's with that said, if it's going to come up for me, it should come up. There we go. Providence is who I'm taking in the picks this week, and I feel like the Stallions are just going to edge enough to the Eagles and give the Eagles their first loss of the season here. And we're going to roll along with that. And next game up, not a game people would have thought I would put on the list, but I'm taking it because it's interesting how this is going to stack up. Viera 3-2. Viera's showing some improvements here, but Melbourne Central Catholic bounces back up. Viera 48-8 over Toho last week. Toho Pakalaga on the last week. And then, of course, the Hustlers, the host Hustlers, coming off a 44-0 victory over Foundation Academy. And looking at this, Melbourne Central Catholic, 367 yards of offense per game. Viera is only doing 259. And I feel like looking at it, the Hustlers have got a really good rushing game here. And I think that's going to be the key difference here. And for the Hawks, the low stats on offense could be to their detriment, and they're only averaging around 20 points a game. So for me, this is where I'm leaning to the host Hustlers taking the win here, and for that, Melbourne Central Catholic with the win here in week 6 is my pick. All right. Rolling along here, we've got Ed White, who's 3-1, coming down the Merritt Island at 4-1, and little good old Interstate 95 matchup here, in my opinion. And the Commanders, the visiting Commanders, coming off a 21-6 victory over Terry Parker. Merritt Island coming off that 26-23 overtime victory against St. Cloud. Both teams, when I was looking at this and researching this, scoring point about comes the same average on scoring points. Ed White 29.2 per game, while Merritt Island's averaging 27.5 a game. And where the big difference is that Ed White is averaging 357 yards a game, Merritt Island 290. And but the biggest thing that really sticks out to me for Ed White is this: 4.8 sacks per game, and Merritt Island is only averaging just under 2 a game. I feel like that's going to be the key critical difference, is that defense for Ed White. And that's why the Ed White Commanders are my pick here in the pick 6 game at Merritt Island. All right. We're going to head back up I-95, get off on 92, and head into DeLand, because at Spec Martin, there is a district showdown in District 782. We're actually going to feature both showdowns this week in District 782 because it's a really good district. When you start to look at it, all the teams there, all 4 teams are on the winning side of things with their records so far this season. So let's start off with Spruce Creek 3-2, DeLand 4-1. A big district game that both teams need so they can be potentially in the driver's seat for the district lead. And, of course, DeLand's coming off that 56-20 victory over Daytona. Spruce Creek is coming off a 21-18 loss to Titusville. Spruce Creek, who started off with 3-0, has now dropped their last 2 games, both to Camden County and Titusville. DeLand, their only loss was to Madison County week 1, and since then, DeLand's been hot, winning 4 games straight. And Spruce Creek averaging 35.2 points a game, DeLand 43 points a game. And honestly, when I look at this, the Hawks are giving up fewer points per game compared to DeLand. But however, at the end of the day, I feel like Spruce Creek is struggling here, and I honestly think DeLand's on a hot roll right this second, and this is where I feel like Rick Darlington's crew is going to be on the edge here and winning this game, and I like to see them take the lead here in District 782. Here, take the tie out of the district lead, I should say, and my pick is for the DeLand Bulldogs this week at home at the Spec Martin Stadium. All right. My next game is the other game in District 782, and that is Flagler Palm Coast 4-0 at Orange City University 4-1. Yes, we know Orange City University is coming off that loss there to O'Galley, and when we look at this, these are the 2 teams that have already beaten Mainland. That's the common denominator here. Yes, both of them have victories over the defending state champion Mainland Buccaneers. Now, let's look at it. University coming off that loss. Flagler Palm Coast had that blowout win over Zephyr Hills Christian in homecoming. Flagler Palm Coast averaging 40.5 points a game. University 33.4 points a game. But what's concerning is that I feel like University giving up 19 points per game while Flagler Palm Coast is only giving up just 9 points per game is the big difference. But I feel like when it comes to this, the competitive schedules, they're very comparative. But I feel like if there's an edge, it's University. Yeah, and I feel like University will bounce back here in this game this week, and I that's why I'm taking the Titans to win this game, despite the fact I do have concerns about how many points they have given up per game so far this year. I feel like Flagler Palm Coast they're rising, but I just don't know if this is a game that if Flagler Palm Coast wins this game, that's going to be major hats off to them. Most likely could get them ranked in our Florida HSFootball.com sports media rankings. If they get the victory this week. So that's 5 out of 6 games here. We got one more game to pick here, and that is St. Thomas Aquinas at Bishop Moore. Probably the best matchup right now in Central Florida this week, in my opinion. And St. Thomas Aquinas, number 2 in Class 5A last week. Bishop Moore, number 5 in Class 3A last week. And the Raiders are coming off a 56-0 victory over MacArthur while the Hornets were off last week in preparation for this highly anticipated game. And let's look at it this way. Let's look at the numbers. St. Thomas Aquinas averaging 38.6 points per game, only giving up 10 points per game. Bishop Moore, 33.25 points per game, while only giving up 21 points per game. So, biggest thing is Bishop Moore giving up more points a game here. St. Thomas Aquinas, really good defense here. And they since losing to Bishop Gorman in week 1, they've been on a roll here. And I mean, my thing is this: you got to have a good. Your head coach Matt Hedrick, you got to have a good game plan to go up against St. Thomas Aquinas, and you got to play a really, really clean game. You can't have many penalties. You can't. You really can't let St. Thomas Aquinas dominate the other side. But that's easier said than done. And my pick, I'm taking St. Thomas Aquinas for the victory over the Hornets, hand Bishop Moore their first loss of the season, and that's how I'm looking at it. And, of course, a couple of comments here. Angelina Jacobs, how agrees with me on DeLand. And then, of course, as St. Thomas Aquinas, no ifs or buts about it. So I appreciate that. And, of course, the Alachua Prep chimes in and said, I'll take Providence in that first game that I picked between Providence and the Masters Academy. So, yes, that is the pick 6 here for week number 6 here. Interesting. Week 6 or pick 6 or week 6, I should say. But anyways, again, we'll see how many of these games get played here this week. We'll kind of keep an eye on what happens, and we'll see how this all unfolds here. But definitely appreciate everybody watching here. If you got any final comments, go ahead and post them here. But go to FloridaHSFootball.com. We got the stuff we're dealing with, tracking what potentially could become Hurricane Helen. Also, follow us on social media, Florida HS Football, at Florida HS Football, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that notification bell when we go live or put up new content. And, of course, also follow us on X/Twitter. That is at FLA HS Football. And definitely appreciate everybody watching here for the Central Florida Blitz. Sorry, apologize for not having our guest tonight. Just a last minute emergency, and didn't have enough time to find somebody to reschedule with here for this week. So, hey, we made it through the show, regardless if we have a guest or not. And I appreciate everybody joining us here. And we'll get things going here for the Gulf Coast Blitz coming up here at 8:30 here on FloridaHSFootball.com. For myself, Joshua Wilson of FloridaHSFootball.com, we'll see you in a little bit here for the Gulf Coast Blitz. And, of course, tomorrow for the Drive the State show, the North Florida Blitz and the South Florida Blitz. All those shows tomorrow on FloridaHSFootball.com. Until then, we'll see you at 8:30 right here on FloridaHSFootball.com.